Chris, how is the search going?
There was 2 HVAC companies that I'm waiting on Sims for. It's like, that's a better spread than I usually see.
How are you keeping an eye out? What are some of the channels that you're using for kind of opportunistic views?
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of basic blocking and tackling and stuff like LinkedIn.
Don't feel bad about it. Just send those messages. Worst case, you're going to get someone who says no.
Yeah.
Any thoughts or movement potentially towards starting what you're trying to find in the niche zone versus buying and moving forward?
Nah, honestly not.
Welcome back to JackQuisitions. What's going on? Chris Barr in the house today.
What's up, everybody? Good to be back as always.
Chris, how is the search going? So it's hard because you and I stay in contact, so I actually know how the search is going, but I do want you to tell everybody.
For the masses, yeah. No, it's good, man. Kind of last time we talked, and really even before that, it's been a lot of infrastructure work. So not a lot of, super sexy, exciting, deal flow as much as we both like to be talking about that. That being said, I think it's really a good thing. And I think it's kind of how to build leverage in your search. And to take some time and take a few beats to really build a sophisticated system, which I realized I didn't do the first time around. I thought it was sophisticated, which you don't know what you don't know. But to build something that can handle a lot more volume is going to build me a lot more leverage to make it a lot more efficient and allow me to up the volume this second go around. So
when you talk about leverage and systems, what are you specifically referring to? Because there's lots of leverage. Some big leverage keys are people leverage, right? Hiring in the Philippines is a people and a money leverage, whereas leveraging technology helps your time, money, and the search itself. So what kind of leverage are you using when you say leverage?
The people leverage is not so much a focus. I will bring that back in as I source that pressure washing deal from. I hired someone off Upwork to create a database. There will be some more of that down the road, but as a self-funded searcher, my capital's only got so much bandwidth. So to bring in personnel, which costs on the human leverage front, that is, it will come a bit later, and a lot of the same methods I was using before, because again, my bandwidth doesn't offer much else. It's more and I'm so not a techie, but it's that tech leverage. Before, I was managing everything in a manual Excel file, basically like a fancy Rolodex that I built for myself, and it was a lot of clicks. It was time consuming. It was sloppy. So to build myself out a actual CRM and things like that, some data scraping tools. We talked about cold outreach this last time. And I agree, it's not always super personal. It's not the outreach that I favor, but to have that running in the background while I'm doing everything else is, again, very high leverage. If I'm blasting out a bunch and I'm only getting 1% to 2% response rate, even then, it's still a good thing to have cooking in the background. So those are the types of tech leverages I'm building in currently.
So since the last time we talked, it's been a little over a month.
Yeah.
So for you, what's been working? Has there been any movement on the deal front? Is there any strategies that you're saying, hey, I think I'm going to pursue this?
It's no secret that my office here in Nashville is almost completely empty. So how do I support my team as well as have great growth metrics? Well, the answer is international contractors with Quick Staffers. So Quick Staffers is a premier staffing agency which will place top-tier talent in your business, built by the trades for the trades. So if you need a CSR, they'll be placing a CSR that is highly trained in your business, that knows Service Titan and can book calls effectively day one, call one. Affordable, reliable, and trained in all of the industry best practices, Quick Staffers can help you cut that overhead, boost conversions, and scale your business fast. So don't waste another lead. Visit quickstaffers.com and transform your business today.
Yeah, I think that the difficult part for me about that, building that tech leverage, is the juggling and the balancing act. It's one of these things where, especially again, it's not a techie. This stuff is so time consuming for me to build. And again, I think that for a while I was so focused on that, but I just got deal itch. And I also think there is something to be very valuable to be said for just keeping your finger on the pulse and keeping a foot on the gas pedal for keeping deal flow in. So I think since the last month we talked, that's been my focus is how do I find a good equilibrium here? So still focusing on that infrastructure build, but at the same time, okay, let me reapproach my brokerage network that I did take the time to build early on. Try to at least be actively reviewing opportunities and never have weeks go by that are flat on opportunity review. Just to again keep that consistent flow. So that's been the focus the past month. I'm still waiting on like a 10-day turnaround time for a big batch of Sims that I filled out NDAs for. So that's a little frustrating. Just tap the broker today, be like, where those Sims, man? We're excited to review. But a lot of kind of bread and butter stuff that was of interest the first go around that I haven't really seen for a while. A lot of good HVAC stuff, which is straight up your alley. And again, I feel like a lot of those price points, a lot of kind of what I was seeing from preliminaries didn't feel like a good fit. There were some flooring contractors, roofing business, a few landscaping ones, probably 3 or 4 HVAC ones. So yeah, again, it's a lot of kind of the bread and butter home services businesses that I've kind of taken a break from that have circled back up and good opportunities have popped up. So exciting.
And so it sounds like to me you're really working the broker network right now is what's driving you the most leads. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. And again, I think that'll pop up into more off-market stuff once that infrastructure gets built. And that's really what the infrastructure is for, is to kind of build that off-market pipeline network, as well as some on-market stuff. But again, I feel like you're remiss in trying to target an offline pipeline, while you don't really have an on-market pipeline. I feel like you've got to have the bedrock of that before expanding into off-market deals. So being able to kind of tap into that broker network for on-market stuff while I'm building out the machine to target off-market stuff is, again, that balancing act I'm in the middle of.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's wrong. I mean, from a standpoint of work, because I work with brokers regularly, I mean, the nice part about once a broker views you as, hey, you are this type of person, which I'm the HVAC guy who's buying in the HVAC industry, I get a lot of first looks on businesses. But what I've also found to be extremely helpful is it's a first look as well as, I don't want to call it last look, but on market for over a year.
Yeah.
Right. Because if a business owner really wants to move, or a business owner really is looking to, he has health issues, whatever the case may be that is causing urgency in their life, they've probably given it to the broker. The broker has said, hey, I can move it at this number, which was too high. They get 2 or 3 bids that come in that say, hey, no, this is too high. And then it just sits because everybody's seen it. Do you have any strategy around that? Or have you ever thought about going and looking at, on market 180 days plus businesses?
No, but you bring up a good point about being on either end of the bookend. Kind of being monkey in the middle is, I feel like, where a lot of bad deals exist. So no, it hasn't necessarily been a focus. That being said, the original pressure washing deal might end up recircling towards the beginning of the year for that same reason. So kind of organically, not with a lot of intention, but we might have an example of that popping up. But no, it's definitely something I want to start incorporating.
Chris, speaking of that, so I know your background is in commercial real estate. With the commercial real estate, do you find that, and this is just me being genuinely curious, do you find that the bookend theory kind of is the same there as well? Or is it different in real estate?
No, I think there's some truth to be spoken to it. I think that when it comes to commercial real estate, again, I think that there's this commonplace fallacy that it's very, very passive investing. And I guess it can be. I then think that poor landlords, to be frankly honest, treat it pretty passively. That being said, for the reasons you mentioned, people's health, their activity level, when you have an operating business, it's definitely more involved. And so for that reason, I think that landlords can let properties hang out on market for much, much longer and not be as beholden to a timeline. That being said, and Don Tetman, who everybody loves on LinkedIn, strip mall guy, shout out Don, wherever you are. Again, there is still great deals on market. Everybody thinks that to find something worth buying, you have to go off market. And that's just not the case. And I think that that really applies to small business acquisitions as well as commercial real estate, that there is good stuff out there in different parts of the cycle. But again, I do think that bookending it's probably wise.
Yeah, I mean, good deals. Don't get me wrong. All my best deals have been off market, every single one of them. That being said, I don't think that you're wrong. I do think that the idea, though, is that for on-market deals that have been sitting there a long time, you go into it understanding that the purchase price given is not going to be the actual purchase price. And the brokers are all yelling at me and telling me that, Jack, you're an idiot right now. But from my experience, you know, the purchase price is set by the business owner, not the broker, and they have a fiduciary responsibility to bring any and all offers to the business owner. So I think that if you are specifically having issues, it kind of in your case too, not issues that you're having issues, but issues of the sense that you are stuck to a strict geo and you are stuck to, you're not, but if others are stuck to a specific industry type or vertical, it doesn't actually hurt to have those conversations with the brokers and say, hey, this one's been sitting. Is he willing to come down on purchase price? Because I mean, there's a few deals that I've been working on that go back a year, 2 years, where the owner still wants to sell, but he's just not getting his price, and he never will get that price. And so eventually he has to make a decision, or she has to make a decision, whether to come down on price or to shut down. And something is usually better than nothing, because they'll never get the price that they're asking.
Yeah, it's funny that you brought that up. I was literally just talking to a fellow searcher like a half hour ago about this. And I'm glad that you noted it, because it almost seems like second nature. It's almost kind of like, for people who have been searching for a bit, it almost goes without saying that for a lot of these market deals, the purchase price is not actually the purchase price. But again, I think that a lot of people, again, it seems so commonplace to us who don't even think about it, but I think for a lot of new searchers out there, it's something that they kind of got to get in the rhythm of realizing. But yeah, and you also kind of brought up a good point about constraints, again, being constrained via geo, being constrained via via sector. And we were talking about this a lot of when you're constrained via geo, it's still really important to brand yourself under a banner and say, like, Jack is the HVAC guy, HVAC Jack. That is what you do right now. I am temporary infrastructure Chris and event rental Chris. That is what I'm branding myself as. But when you do have a big constraint like geo, to keep the antenna up and to be opportunistic. And that doesn't mean that you conduct outreach and create this wide funnel of a brand, because I feel like you do need to have a niche, but to be opportunistic in what you allow yourself to review and what you allow to come your way. I think that's a balance.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's very interesting. The business, it's the theory that the minute that you go and buy a red Toyota Camry,
confirmation
that you
bias.
see a bunch of red Toyota Camrys, and the minute that you start looking at buying businesses, you actually see the opportunity to buy businesses or to partner with people. And so I think that that's a very good key. Is I used to have an ongoing spreadsheet of just like ideas to start businesses that just was, like 6 or 7 pages long. I used to post it to my Twitter. And I mean, the ideas are never, in my opinion, they're not valuable. The action is, but what is valuable, even with the idea, is getting your mind in the right mindset to find those opportunities. Because even if they aren't straightforward to you, right, or they're not outright, hey, I'm looking for X to do Y. If someone's saying, hey, I'm having trouble with this, do you know anybody that can help? Like, that in itself is the opportunity to either step in or provide capital value or provide labor value. There's differing ways to get ownership. How are you keeping an eye out? What are some of the channels that you're using for kind of opportunistic views?
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of basic blocking and tackling and stuff like LinkedIn. I would say, and this is a great segue. 2 weekends ago was at the ETA conference up at Harvard Business School. And man, What an event. Especially for, I think all searchers have read the, HBR Guide to Buying a Business by Royce Yudkoff. He was a speaker there, ran into him in between sessions. So I'm like, your book changed my life. Like, thanks. And he like stopped. He's like, oh, are you a searcher? Like, where are you at in the process? I'm like, oh my God. Like, so I had one of my mentors speaking there as well. So great event. So I think that stuff like that, we've talked about it super early on the local level chamber of commerce, but really upping my like LinkedIn activity. And that's something that's very, very uncomfortable for me. Heck, I'll get on and speak here, but for some reason, hopping into comment section, making posts, like that stuff is uncomfortable for me. But I realize it's helped put me in touch with a lot of people, as well as business brokers and ETA professionals in my local area. Dude, just like hop in their DMs, man. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. And I was not as active on that front as I should have been in the past. But I think that kind of networking in those ways, again, I think that a big part of my brand I've thrown up is like, I am in West Palm Beach. That is something that
I do think that's good.
yeah,
That's a
I think a
really good
lot of
part of your brand.
searchers that I've run into be like, oh yeah, you're that guy from West Palm. Like, yes. And so I had a few opportunities that were West Palm specific come through via those channels. So
Including one for me. I texted you one because like, oh, I don't know much about West Palm Beach, but I know that Chris is there, so I'm going to send him anything that comes up. But like that's my key for the brand is like, it's not only, oh, you buy HVAC units. It's I buy HVAC units in Tennessee or HVAC companies in Tennessee. And it's like, hey, who this person is and what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Your brand is I'm a business buyer
Yeah.
in West Palm Beach and I'm real, I'm active
Mhm.
and I'm searching. Like if you have anything, send it to me. And I think that that's a great opportunity and an awesome, but along the same line is also getting out there on LinkedIn. Like it doesn't have to, it's getting out there on LinkedIn and not doing the guru thing. I think it's doing the who you really are thing and providing value and coming out there. I mean, I had my first, I think it was like 3,000 or 4,000 followers. I've had more followers on Twitter from when I didn't own businesses than when I did own businesses because I had more time to be active.
Yeah.
But I also was like doing stuff. Like I was like, hey, this is how I'm looking at buying businesses.
Yeah.
This is how I'm looking for this business. I'm scraping all of BizBuySell and I'm pulling all the data from BizBuySell and I'm going through and saying, hey, what are all the HVAC companies actually worth? What are they trading at so that I know? But posting that data and being outright and just actually being in the community of small business buyers on LinkedIn has put me in more contacts and in more DMs than probably any other medium, even including this show, which is, a show that gets 6, 7, 8,000 listens an episode. I get more connections through those platforms. So highly recommend being on LinkedIn. I mean, there's 3 people today wrote me an email, I wrote them back and I tried putting one of them in contact with a business owner in their area. Yeah. So like, it's really easy. We're all just people. Do it.
Yeah.
Don't pull a Chris. Don't feel bad about it. Just send those messages. Worst case, you're going to get somebody who says no.
Yeah. Again, I think that it was kind of the public facing stuff. I was like, ew, that's just like, so not me. But no, it is. And I think that you, again, have to insert yourself into those rooms. And yeah, you sent me that one. You were also one of 3. And so I think that that's the thing is, again, I'm realizing it as I'm saying it out loud that when you're kind of building this brand, again, I think that kind of some level of sector specificity is key. And I'm not trying to get around that. But again, the whole reason people get into ETA is to like, go the Burger King route of like, have it your way, like build the adventure and build the life that you want. This gives you full ability to customize it. And you get to prioritize the things that are most important to you, enterprise value, location, sector. You
B2B.
pick what's most important to you. And my geolocation is obviously really, really important to me. So making that central to my brand, again, it was kind of second nature, but now that I'm saying it out loud, like, yes, being known as the West Palm Beach guy is branding in and of itself. So that's definitely produced some fruit.
So as you're moving forward, are there any other sectors or industries that you've kind of been opening up SIMs or you've been looking into that have really blown you away and you're like, hey, maybe I should think about this? I mean, you talked about looking at some HVAC businesses. Is there anything out there less from the purchase price standpoint, but more from like the economics and business model standpoint that interests you?
Totally. And again, I really am excited about kind of my sector definition of temporary infrastructure, facility services, event rental, stuff like that. I am really excited about that, but I'm going into that knowing that that's pretty niche. And again, I'm branding myself with that so I can be the first person that people think of in my area when they see kind of a niche opportunity like that. That being said, we kind of touched on this, but it's keeping your antenna up and keeping your frequency range pretty broad of what you're willing to receive and what you're willing to review. So
is there anything you reviewed though in the recent month that you were like, wow, that's incredible, or just everything was kind of what you expected?
Yeah, most of the stuff is about what I expected. There was two HVAC companies that I'm waiting on Sims for, and I don't have the data right in front of me, unfortunately. But the margins kind of right off the bat of what they were reporting of SDE to kind of revenue ratios was like, like that's a better spread than I usually see. So like, what's going on there? What can I find out from kind of digging into those numbers a little bit once I get some more details? So again, I wish I had kind of, some meatier stuff to report back, but on the kind of cursory level, few interesting things have popped out there. Some landscape stuff kind of was what I thought it was going to be, not super appealing. So yeah, that's kind of what I've seen probably the past month or so.
Yeah. And then so to round this out, you're coming up on almost a year of searching. You've had a deal come through. Is there any, so I mean, on this show, I'm not opposed to people starting businesses. I know it's an acquisition show,
Yep.
but is there any thoughts or movement potentially towards starting what you're trying to build in or trying to find in the niche zone versus buying and moving forward?
Nah, honestly not. And even franchising, even that feels like a bit of a bridge too far. The whole, and again, I know I'm not unique in this, but I think the whole appeal to buying a small business is having something that has some seasoning to it, something that's been around and definitely survived 2020, ideally survived 2008, and has been been fire tested, and again, even a franchise that's a proven concept of, hey, like this brand has been proven to be successful. It's like, yeah, in some other location with some other guy running on a different intersection, but I'm working with a whole new set of variables here. Who knows if that's going to take off for me the same way that it has in other environments. I think that it's those variables that I don't like playing with. And when you're starting something from scratch, it's nothing but an empty set of variables, and it's getting something off the ground, which is always when it has the highest chance of failure. How many small business we hear stats of, X amount fail within the first 5 years, X amount fail within the first 10 years. So getting something that has already experienced those growing pains and experienced stability, like that's what I'm in this for. And that's why I've remained industry agnostic, because there's a lot of different businesses and a lot of different sectors who have withstood that test of time. Me trying to roll out something on my own from scratch has not. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand on it.
Sweet. And to circle back on something you said, how was, I mean, in kind of the same vein of what we're talking about, getting out into the industry and talking to people, and if you're going to actually search and actually be that person who's interested in buying a business, how was the Harvard Business Entrepreneurship Conference?
I left Boston ready to run through a brick wall. I was jacked. It was awesome.
It looked fun.
Yeah, coming from commercial real estate, and especially retail. The ICSE conference out in Vegas is always like the event. Like you are nobody in retail unless you're at that thing. I somewhat feel similarly towards, as some of these ETA conferences, the big ones, Chicago, Booth, Harvard's. I've heard Stanford has a good one. I think Wharton does too. But
Wharton has one.
Yeah, I think that getting, again, it's those kind of, and you remarked on the long hair and mustache. I'm obviously not the Ivy League kind of guy, but I think that, again, taking the leap and getting in those rooms was huge. And sometimes I hear a lot of the MBA buzzwordy speak, and I'm just like, yeah, I get the icks, but a lot of the seminars and a lot of the talks given were from such experienced operators with such incredible value alignment and the ability to leverage and grow teams from getting people in sync and how they kind of cooperate amongst different like channels and stuff. It was like, wow, like this is how the heck it's done. So loved it. Recommend anybody watching this take a visit.
Was there anything that you walked away from that you got extreme value, or like, wow, this speaker spoke on this subject and it changed my mind on what I think about X, Y, or Z?
No, I don't think anything really changed my mind, but there was two really validating talks that I went to. One was one of my mentors who talked about turnaround tales. People who you could have gotten up there for that seminar was people who bought something on their first deal and things went horribly wrong and they had to get it turned around and right the ship. And every one of those guys talked about kind of a nightmare horror story about their first deal. And all of them said, yeah, as bad as that was, I still would repeat that experience, then go and repeat the search. The search is just like a slog and it's miserable and it's a grind. I'm like, whoo, like, thank you. Like that really helps you kind of embrace the hardship of what searching is in that reality. So
yeah, it makes sense too why so many people buy their initial deals bad, including myself. Is because you're trying to get out of that slog so bad that you put on some rose-colored glasses and look the other way.
Yeah.
But it's important not to do that because time is better than a bad deal, initial bad deal.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's kind of, back to the good old like Marine Corps isms of like embracing the suck and all that kind of stuff. And then the second one was Michael Aubrey spoke, and he is just like a master of scaling. And he at the beginning was like, I don't have enough time to go into like sales and marketing and like business development, all that stuff. And I was like, cool. Like, well, what are we going to get into? And it was really about getting people aligned on values and mission and how to kind of defaulting to military speak here, but kind of how to get that commander's intent and how to get kind of your thesis of how you're running your new operation communicated down the food chain and opening lines of communication up the food chain so you can have a really value aligned business that is offering a high quality of service. And I loved how it ran counter to a lot of what people think PE is. And he was running it was like a medical wellness brand. And again, especially in that space, people think of like PE, they come, they gut everyone out, they fire everybody, they slim everything up, they improve margins and profitability, and like care and service just like goes down the tubes. His was very much opposite. He preached the importance of like being comfortable with the J curve and like allowing things to go down and get a little bit worse in order to establish good fundamentals and then allow them to eventually get better, and knowing where you're at on that J curve. And again, the communication and getting people in line with your vision and how to communicate that vision. I was like, I left that just totally blown away. And my mentor introduced me to him right before the speech. So that was cool to get a handshake from that guy. And then the importance of establishing a board. They all harped on that of like, get a team around you and shoot much, much higher than you feel qualified shooting, and getting a board around you. So yeah, that was pretty inspiring as well.
Yeah, that one's always interesting because we never had a board.
Yeah.
We don't to this day.
Yeah.
But I do see a lot of new searchers coming through with a board, and it's like, oh, this is the president of Costco, and oh, this guy used to run this. Yeah, Elias. And you guys,
24-year-old kid just slamming like 2,000 cold calls like an hour or something like that. Crazy.
And he's getting I'm still blown away that he's getting like, how does he get these guys' numbers? But he's an expert at it.
God bless him.
But I've seen now since that episode, I've seen like 3 or 4 usually young guys coming along who are extremely ambitious. And they're like, hey, Jack, we got this guy on the board, this guy on the board, and this guy on the board, and we're moving this way. What do you think? And I'm like, this is wild.
Yeah.
But hey, I don't disagree with the concept of surrounding yourself with industry folks that can help you out a ton, because they've been there, they've done it, they know the industry, they know people in the industry, and they can point you in the right direction.
And obviously, if you can go get former CEO of Costco, or if you can go get some like heavy pipe hitters, and like by all means, like that's great. But like, again, swing as high as you possibly can. Get creative on, not necessarily even compensation, but the exchange rate for why those people are going to be involved. And I think that there's a lot of willingness to, again, like help out young, hungry minds. So I think that again, doing what you can to surround yourself with some really smart people and regularly be getting their input, I think is a great thing to do. So, Jack, if you be on the lookout for a board invitation, it'll be coming. So Casey Acquisitions needs you.
Probably one of the most important decisions you can make in your ETA journey is which SBA lender you are going to pick. A lender who will be in your corner to get you closed on the deal, as well as set you up for future expansion. That is why we partnered with Alan Peterson from First Internet Bank. He and his team take a how can we approach, as well as I personally know they specialize in home service acquisitions. Mention the show or my handsome bald head and receive a reduced good faith deposit, as well as a detailed deal review and maybe even a buy-side pre-qualification. No strings attached. Head on over to alanfib.com, that's alanfib.com, or click the link below to get connected.
Sweet. Well, let me know. And in the meantime, that wraps up today. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We appreciate it. Leave us 5 stars wherever you listen. I know we say that every time and nobody leaves 5 stars. Go do it. Just take the 2 seconds to leave this podcast a review. Like, subscribe, leave comments on what you want to hear or where you think Chris should go buy a business and how. Just give him lots of feedback on what he should do better.
Let me have it.
That's what I'm looking for. And, we appreciate you. Appreciate it, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.